Yep,
So
definitely.
I know the feeling there. All right. So I guess I'll get started first. Luis, I just want to say thank you so much for uh agreeing to do this with me, man. Like I feel like I don't want you to think that you were like the guinea pig of the whole 15 minutes of fame mantra. You're actually, if there was a statue for 15 minutes of fame, it would be Luis G would be
Oh,
the statue for 15 minutes of fame. So again, thank you so much for coming on and
yeah.
doing this with me as we trial out the interview that I want to start doing with
Yeah.
independent artists.
Well, hope gosh, statue is a big word. I'm like, hope I'm not disappointing.
No, absolutely not, man. You're kind of you're like the bar. You were what I was kind of looking for, going into this whole thing. Of course, this all started with an idea, a few months ago for me. You and I are both familiar with the new social media app Threads. It's relatively new, about a year old, a little older than a year, and just it's just kind of been a different element slash resource for independent artists to kind of network and collaborate. And I've been
Yeah.
trying to, I guess, figure out a way to get into all of that. And a few months ago, I did the quote unquote 15 minutes of fame challenge where, people just submitted songs and you know, uh, I would basically listen to everybody, and once I made a selection of the artists that I wanted to, praise, like essentially the idea is what I wanted to do was everybody who is participating, I want to encourage all of those people to come together and, spend 15 minutes in one day to just honing in on that artist, just let him feel like this, buzz of love, and
Yeah.
I don't know how it ended up working out for you. Like I did a call to it, but unfortunately with social media, like everybody's willing to throw their hat in the ring, but once it's done, they're just kind of like they all kind of mosey on their own separate ways. But so as far as that was concerned, what was that like for you? Like just and how does that initial little competition compare to other things that you see on social media?
Yeah. I mean, I thought it was really cool actually to have that opportunity to participate and just be like, hey, like this is my stuff. I'm still, I feel like even though I've been doing music for a while, like I still always feel pretty new and pretty amateurish to a lot of things. And so, just having like the opportunity to be chosen to do something like that in itself is really cool. And I'm a fan of the concept that you have of like the 15 minutes because I feel like everybody deserves that at some point, or everybody should deserve that at
Absolutely.
some point.
Hmm.
There's a ton of really talented people online, and I'm not saying that that's me, but I'm saying like there's a lot of really talented people online that are working hard every day, and they're trying their best to make quality stuff, and algorithms and just like different like expectations and stuff that the world puts on artists really limit a lot of the reach that we can have. So I think just any
Absolutely.
opportunity that people get to showcase themselves and be like, hey, like, yeah, this is me in a nutshell, or like I feel like that's always super great.
Absolutely. I couldn't agree with you more there. It's funny that you were kind of speaking about, a lot of people. There are a lot of very talented independent artists that are
Mhm.
doing a lot to get some recognition, and they're probably not quite meeting their expectations. Even
Mhm.
if you look at like a realistic standard, just kind of, increasing your plays and
Mhm.
your reach
Yeah,
just a little amount. It's very, very difficult to do. It's almost a full-time job, really.
right.
And I was actually thinking about that the other day since I've started the blog. I've just had a whole lot of music coming in my way and listening to all of it. There's so much good music out there. And I don't know what separates them from, you'll go onto TikTok or you'll go onto Instagram or something and watch a few reels, and then you'll see another person that's never been heard of, and they've got
Hmm.
a couple songs on there that have several 100,000 views, sometimes even a million views
Hmm.
and things. And then you look and their followers are just, you know that they're now officially profiting off of it. And it's
Yeah.
like what separates one independent artist from another, and maybe that's just something we haven't figured out yet. But I'm hopeful that, this it might not be like an overnight thing, but maybe this can grow into something a little bit bigger. So speaking of bigger, I wanted to say congratulations. I saw yesterday you actually posted something about you and your wife celebrating an anniversary. So
Yeah.
congratulations there.
Thank you.
That's pretty awesome. Yeah, absolutely. You bet.
Thanks.
I thought that was really cool. And I couldn't help but also notice you were talking about, your recent release out, your album that came out just in the spring, Second Chances. You also spoke a little bit, maybe even teased that you might have a couple things down the works, maybe like another album, and before that, maybe a smaller release. Are you willing to go into that at all, or are you still kind of close to the chest on that one?
Yeah, I mean, I feel like still kind of, I guess, kind of secretive, but I like putting teasers out there. I don't know why. I just like I always really enjoy it, and I feel like sometimes like you can say a lot and not say enough. But yeah, I definitely so I have a few ideas of some things that I'm working on. One thing that you might not know about me is I'm fluent in Spanish, and I
Oh,
also
wow.
sing. I also sing in Spanish. I haven't written anything in Spanish, so that's something I really really want to work on. So there might be some stuff a little bit related to that in the near future.
That's
But
really
yeah.
cool. So some
Yeah.
some bilingual releases. I love it, man. I dig it.
I would love that. Honestly, like when like a dream of mine would be to have like like a kind of like I don't know, like to give an example, like Shakira, right? When she
Hmm.
released, I think her first one in English was Laundry Service. That she released it it was I think in Spanish first and then in English. And so that's my goal is to someday be able to do that. Because
Yeah.
like writing in one language is one thing, translating is another one, but making it make sense, like you can't just like translate word for word. Like music is just
Mhm.
such a transcendent and such a transformative thing that you can't translate word for word. Like you almost pretty much have to like write a song in one language and then rewrite it again in another language. And so that's a goal of mine someday. I don't know when
Absolutely.
that's gonna be, but that's definitely a goal of mine someday.
Well, that sounds really cool. I would definitely love to hear some of that as well too.
Uh,
That's really awesome. I did not know that about you, that you're bilingual
uh.
as well too. That's like an unfair advantage. You're just meeting like a wider market there that way. The sign language count, I might be able to try and sing.
I
I'm
mean, you
just
know what?
kidding.
Actually, it does count. I think it is a recognized
There's
language.
an interpretation for it, yeah, for
Yep,
sure. Like, have you ever
exactly,
seen the video
exactly.
of Eminem rapping and then the sign language interpreters
I
going along
I
with it?
love sign language
Oh
interpreters. They're
man,
they're like they're I like it because because you can stand and you can do like I'm not gonna try to sign because I don't know how to
yeah,
sign, but like you can do the signs, but it's one thing to like actually like engage your audience while
yeah.
signing at the same time. Like I feel like that is a completely different skill than just interpreting sign.
Absolutely. Yeah, I couldn't agree with you more. Okay, so we talked about the competition with selecting the song, picking the
Mhm.
15 minutes of fame. So then I want to kind of just move into the next phase of what I started with 15 minutes of fame, and that's the blogs. And as we kind of touched on at the very beginning, you know, you being my first recognee for the 15 minutes of fame, I figured, I would start with you with the blog, with the album that you had released, Second Chances. Um, as far as having music that you put out there in the world, having it reviewed by a blog or, some type of a journalist, maybe like an online journalist or something,
Hmm.
what kind of effect do you think that has as far as, and you can kind of speak on this in both ways because, meaning the first way of like your how you receive the information, one, and
Yeah.
two, how you can use that information to maybe promote your music and what you're doing. If you wouldn't mind speaking on that for a little bit.
Yeah. Yeah, totally. I always think in anytime somebody reviews you, regardless of who it is, like I feel like it's an honor because first of all, someone took the time to actually listen. And sometimes people will do a little research, sometimes they won't, but like somebody took the time to actually listen to you and be like, hey, like, I'm gonna look a little more into like what this person is singing about or writing about and their songs. So I always feel like it's such a great honor to that. I mean, there is such a thing as, canned reviews. Like, like there's websites that you can go on and, like submit your song and then you'll basically get, like it might even be like an AI review. Like that's always
Hmm.
totally possible. And you can always kind of tell those apart too, because I've submitted songs to some of those before, and you can always kind of tell them apart. But you can always tell like when somebody's actually like, "Hey, I listened to this," and like one of the things I really liked about your review was that you went back and you're like, like this song specifically spoke to me this way, and this song spoke to me like this, and like it just like it was obvious that it was not you didn't just like feed it into AI, which was really nice.
Yeah.
And I really feel like, I don't know how much effect reviews have on an artist as far as like maybe reaching a new audience, but there are people that, like trust music bloggers and trust journalists and like it's almost like word of mouth, right? Like if
Yeah.
if you really like something, you're gonna tell your friend, and then maybe that friend will like it and tell their friend. And so like that's kind of how I view a lot of times like reviews and music blogs. It's like it's just it's another form of word of mouth. It's a little more professional word of mouth because it's been like written and edited and proofread and all that stuff. But it feels like it's just it's a little it's like word of mouth. And I think
Yeah,
especially whenever like, like
absolutely.
a blogger writes about you, they're just they're just telling their audience who you are. And just I just feel like it's always a good opportunity for recommendations too.
Yeah. Yeah, I think about, to your point, like guys like Anthony Fantano,
Hmm.
like I have, my kid will listen to what he has to say about something before listen to it himself and already, kind of devise an
Yeah.
opinion on it and stuff. So you're right. I think there is a lot of power in, the blogging or, like YouTube reviews and things like that.
Hmm.
Or YouTube reactions, stuff like that. I do think that there is some power behind that if, we can get there. And you actually kind of
Yeah.
touched on a couple things too. I wanted to kind of speak or ask you about really, So one thing that being an independent artist will do is it will introduce you to your allies and it will introduce you to your
Hmm.
enemies. And right now, there's an entity in question that is posing as either one or the other, and that is AI, artificial intelligence.
Yes.
What do you think, as far as being incorporated into the world of independent music, is AI helpful or is it hurtful?
Gosh, I actually have a lot of opinions on this. But I won't take too much of your time. I think, AI can be a very useful tool for sure for a lot of things. I think, like because I've heard a few AI written songs. Like I think, we've all seen them floating around on like
Hmm.
different social media platforms and stuff. And I think what it's going to come down to, first of all, I actually don't think that AI is going to replace artists ever. I think there is always going to be room for people that can create their own music, their art,
Absolutely.
literature, whatever it is. And there's there's going to be the people that are going to be like, you know what, cool, like this song's kind of fun, like it's kind of catchy. Oh, a machine made it. Okay, like I don't care. Right? Like there's going to be the people that don't care about that, but you're always going to have the people that are loyal to, to who they follow.
Authenticity.
Yeah,
Yeah,
exactly.
absolutely. Hmm.
And I just I feel that, like AI is coming, AI is here. I think
Yeah,
we're in a very primitive stage of AI right now. Um, like you just have to look at AI art and it's, you can tell that it's fake a lot of times.
yeah.
Um, but I mean, like I think there's a place for it and there's going to be people that want that. One thing that I do find very problematic about AI and music and just in the arts in general is that, record labels, music companies, advertisers, production companies, they're going to find a way to continue to undercut artists, right?
Hmm.
So you're going to have I think you're going to start seeing more maybe independent labels come out. You're going to see more independent people than going to like a big corporate machine that is just like, hey, here's an AI song and
Yeah,
they did all the work for you. And so we're not going to give you much money. We're going to save ourselves on labor, um, and stuff like that. So, I just
yeah,
I think we're in a really interesting place where AI is coming, but also like, we're just gonna see, I don't know, we're just gonna see where it goes.
absolutely. Yeah.
Uh,
I think a couple things that I thought, like one of the positives, and any way you look at it,
mhm,
essentially it's at some point, taking the job or responsibility of a person,
mhm.
but for people who are DIY independent artists and they can't afford to, say, go and hire somebody to master something,
Right.
the AI mastering tools are really cool.
Are amazing.
Like,
I've used
yeah,
them. Yeah.
they do really great. But to what you kind of touched on, there's been alleged talk about, like essential artist bots on platforms like
Hmm.
Spotify, that are, AI generated uh artists
Hmm.
producing AI generated music. There's
Yeah.
not a hand in it. Who gets paid for that? And the thing about AI stuff is it's all derivative of something before that. So there's,
Hmm.
question of copyright at that point, like because where if you're not the genesis of this creation, then what is, kind of
Right.
thing. So
Yeah.
it's kind
Yeah.
of, there's a lot of things, and it's interesting you were talking about record labels. I had actually even read an article that I think there was like 12 mid-level record labels that were actually suing for copyright infringement. So it's going to be interesting to kind of see where stuff like that kind of goes in the near future with
Right.
it.
Yeah. And I
Um,
hadn't even thought about copyright because, like it's
yeah.
like where does it even go, right? Does it go to like the creator of the program that wrote the AI or
Yeah,
like,
or
like
does an
who has
artist
it,
get
right?
referenced? Exactly. Yeah.
Right. Exactly.
So
Exactly.
it's very to your point, I
Hmm.
think you said it, and it's here. It's here. So
Yeah.
we have to kind of, figure out how to make that work. But at the same time, you know, we do have to figure out, all right, it is here. How do
Hmm.
we incorporate it and how do we do it lawfully? How do we do it, in a way that's fair to
Hmm.
you know, red-blooded actual
People.
heartbeat
Right. Yeah.
human beings who are creating these things that it's
Right.
pulling inspiration from.
Yeah. Well, and again, there like there is a place, right, for technology.
Hmm.
Um, and like it makes life easier, like you said, like mastering, like I do it because I don't know how to master. I can mix.
Yeah,
I don't know how to master. I can't afford to pay somebody to do that. But I
exactly.
can, I can go to BandLab, or I can do it online for free or for really cheap. Like there is a place for it, but I think where the line is kind of drawn is like exactly where it comes to like the full product, or companies wanted to cut
Creation. Yeah.
corners.
Yeah,
Yeah, wanted
exactly.
to cut
Yeah.
corners to save money and make more profit. And
Hmm.
like I said, I have a lot of opinions. I could go for
Oh
hours
yeah.
on that one.
And actually, speaking of opinions, I really do
Hmm.
enjoy like reading some of the stuff that you post out there because you are very vocal and open about, sharing your opinions and your
Oh,
experiences as an independent artist. And another area that you've actually kind of been a little bit more outspoken about, not that you've necessarily waged a war against Spotify because you definitely utilize
Yeah.
Spotify, but you've been outspoken about how Spotify is kind of waning in terms of being there for the artist. It's
Hmm.
great for exposure because so many people use Spotify, but
Hmm.
it doesn't, when it's people like, you and me, who we don't generate a lot of activity from people, but, we might get some streams. You don't
Right.
see a lot of payment for that though.
No.
And then I remember a post that you actually made a few months ago where you were advocating for Bandcamp, which is something kind of new. People have heard about it, but it's not really, it hasn't inflated to this big thing yet. But
Hmm.
it is kind of starting to come down the pipe. So can you talk a little bit about the competition between different platforms as an independent artist and what you find best to utilize in terms of putting yourself out there or profiting
Hmm.
from these social media platforms.
Yeah, I mean, I'll always say like as a consumer, like I use Spotify, right, to listen to
Hmm.
music because it's so easy and it's so readily available and
User
like
friendly.
literally like I remember the days, growing up and having like CDs and then after that or actually cassette tapes and CDs and
Hmm.
iTunes came out and like it like Spotify I feel like just kind of really brought all that together. Like one thing that I always think of is like younger generations don't will not understand the concept of not having every song you want or every TV show, every movie just readily available to you
Yeah,
at the moment. And Spotify brings that. And like I said, like as a consumer, Spotify is amazing, right? Like,
absolutely.
but yeah, as an artist, I mean, like it is very unfortunate, I mean, like, and I feel like a lot of times the average consumer doesn't think about the fact that Spotify undercuts artists all the time, right? Like now
Yeah.
there's a requirement of you need to have like 1,000 streams of a song within like a month to even get paid. And apparently I heard that starts again every month, right? So if like one month you do really good and the next month like you get like 20 plays of a song, then you won't get paid for that future month. Like you only got paid for that first month.
Yeah.
I think I remember one time watching a video on TikTok of somebody like showing like they're like basically like a deposit from Spotify for like 30 cents or something. And this guy was like, I actually thought I had a really good year and this is how much I made on Spotify.
Yeah.
And so, but one thing that I've learned about Spotify, and I think the same can be applied for, I mean, Apple Music, Amazon, these are all the
Hmm.
different platforms, is that um, they're really great for exposure. But I think we're true fans that really want to, really want to help you out and really want to be engaged and involved with your growth. They're gonna come from other places, right? Bandcamp
Yeah.
is one of them for sure. Like I love Bandcamp Friday. I have not historically I have not been the best about doing Bandcamp Friday, but I love Bandcamp Friday. Um, because artists get 100% of the profits every time, and
Yeah.
it's funny because sometimes like for a while every month I would remember like on Bandcamp Friday and be like, I wish I had like something I could have put out or I could have planned on something a little bit better, but I just didn't. So I'm getting a little better about that. But there's different sources. Like I stream on Twitch about at least once or twice a week. Not not every week. There's weeks that I can, but I try when I do. And one of the things I really like about that model a lot is that people, willfully will want to subscribe to your Patreon is the same way too, right? Like I don't have a Patreon, but I know people that actually do really good on Patreon because the people that will subscribe to you, that will, give you a donation or whatever it is, those are the people that are willing to make that extra investment on you, right? Like uh and maybe those are not the people that are going to be on Spotify, right? And and
Yeah.
and I have come to terms with that of just being like, there's a fans that will, or I don't know, I hate using the word fans. There's a listeners that will, check you out on streaming platforms, and then there's the people that are going to take it an extra step,
Go
and at
reach
the
out
same
to
time, yeah.
smaller places like that. Yeah.
Exactly, exactly. At the same time, I mean, like, I also like always understand like money's tight for people. We live in a very
Hmm.
difficult economy. We live in a difficult time right now, and so I've come to terms that I'm just not going to make a living from music. I have a full-time job. I work, a nine to
Yep,
five, and I actually really like my job a lot. But I know that music is just not going to be something I make a living from. Sometimes I'll
yeah,
make like a little extra
absolutely.
money, like like if I get hired at a bar or like at a coffee shop to do like a gig or, like, and that's more like fun money at this point.
Yeah, absolutely. I couldn't agree more, like, and I think that I think there are a lot of independent artists out there, who
Hmm.
like my passion is actually my career and what I
Hmm.
do on a daily basis. I work in finance and I'm trying to advance
Yeah.
within that field, and that's what
Hmm.
I'm passionate about. But I have an additional passion, and it's, like an artistic outlet. Like, we as human beings are multifaceted people to begin with. So
Right.
it's is perfectly normal for us to find interest in, different planes of things, and
Hmm.
music is one of those things for me. I also like to garden and do puzzles, so go figure,
Right.
but
I love
yeah.
cooking. Like I am
Oh,
I'm an
oh
amateur
man.
home chef. I
Absolutely. Me
love
too.
cooking. It's one of my
Absolutely.
favorite things, but that's
Hmm.
one of those things that sometimes I'm like, I wish I would have like because I didn't really care about cooking until like a few years ago.
Same.
And it's one of those things that I'm like, I wish if I had known that I was going to enjoy cooking, like I would have totally
20
gone to
years ago, yeah, it
yeah, I
would
would have gone
have
to culinary school like
been exactly.
100%. But I missed the
Absolutely.
boat on that. So, maybe one day I'll apply for Master Chef. I don't know.
Hey, you can do the amateur stuff all day long, just
Oh,
just like
I
music,
love it.
right? You,
Exactly. I absolutely love it.
and I'm sure your wife doesn't mind being your test run there whenever you're
Oh yeah.
whipping something up in the kitchen. So,
Well, yeah, and it's fun because I mean she's a really good cook too. Like her grandmother used to
oh,
own an
excellent.
Italian restaurant, and she
Oh,
grew up like
snap.
like with her grandmother. So I mean we take turns as much as we want. I feel over the last year I've kind of been like, no, I want to cook more, but we take turns as much as we can.
Was her grandmother one of the Italians who would get on to you if you snapped the pasta before you
Yeah.
put
Oh
it in?
yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah. Like
It's
traditional
like,
traditional
yeah,
Italian grandmother.
like, don't
100%.
don't do that. Like, come after you with a spoon.
Well, I think one of like her one I think one of her pet peeves was always like sauce and meat combinations. Like she would be like, why would you put a white sauce with like sausage or
Mm.
with like
Oh
beef,
yeah,
right? Like yeah,
yeah.
like that was like she was always like a Puritan in that
Got to
way.
get the sauce right. Yeah, I love that.
Yep.
I love that.
Yeah.
Um, okay, so we just going through the timeline of the 15 minutes of fame thing. So we started with the online challenge through Threads. Then
Hmm.
we've now grown to the blog, and now, of course, tonight's the first night we're trying to you know cut the ribbon for interviews. And I've even thought about doing things like going live and, maybe having like group
Ooh, that'll be fun.
collaborations and stuff like that.
Yeah.
What is an idea you would have for, and I'll let you even take the credit for it too, if it comes to fruition. But
If it's a good one.
what's something that you could see, like, kind of moving forward, like an aspiration, where if you were building a community for independent artists through social media, what next,
Yeah.
says you?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I I'm a really, really big fan of like artists interviewing artists or like kind of like when you have like the actors interviewing actors type
Yeah,
thing
yeah,
because I feel like when it's an artist like there's a different understanding, there's
yeah,
different questions that you're going to ask. So I'll give an example. I have co-hosted the show on Twitch a couple of times called New Tune Showcase. And it's basically it's a round table of like four or five artists. Everybody shares a few original songs. Everybody gets one prompt. And I actually just did that this weekend. I was just a guest. I was not a co-host, but
mhm,
everybody gets a prompt. Everybody, writes a new song and we share it and we kind of like give each other feedback or, just like kind of like talk with each other. But one of my favorite things that I like about it is that it's artists interviewing artists, right?
Yeah.
And it's artists talking with each other about art. And so like I feel like everybody's gonna have a different perspective. So I think, like if there was to be, like a next chapter or whatever, I really just think it would be really cool to just have a series of like artists interviewing artists or like even like roundtable discussions, right, between artists about like like pick a topic, right, like AI, perfect
Yeah.
example, right,
Oh,
AI,
yeah.
and you get 4 or 5 people talking about AI, the AI
Debating on it.
industry.
Hmm.
And I feel like that would be really interesting, definitely. I mean, live components are always fun. Again, I come from the live streaming world. Like um, it's interesting because when I first started doing music, I started playing at open mics, and then the pandemic happened, and I had to kind of
Hmm.
rethink everything. And to the point where, like, I still consider live streaming like my main, I guess, my main way of sharing my music or sharing myself. And I feel like there is a pretty good component when it comes to like live streaming and just having like, not you don't always have to, but just seeing like people in chat like giving feedback or like like responding and resonating. Like I feel like that is it's a very underused component by a lot of artists, I would say.
Yeah. Absolutely. That's really cool. And I love the inclusiveness and the idea of like doing like a round table and just kind of,
Hmm.
everybody kind of growing together from it. In all honesty, like I've had like uh ideas and visions kind of very similar to that,
Hmm.
like doing like a songwriting session, where people
Oh yeah, that'd be cool.
like or like a virtual open mic. I really loved right after Second Chances came out, you did the virtual tour, like I thought that was so
Yeah.
cool. Like I was just like, man, that is such a great idea. And just kind of thinking about stuff like that, because
Yeah.
just like AI, technology is just growing and advancing
It is.
every single day. And just if you can find a way to kind of make it work for you, like it just kind of, gets you gets you on the right playing field to kind of compete, and the my biggest wish is for this to grow into something that, doesn't obviously take the place of mainstream music, but it competes to it, and having a
Yeah.
community of musicians that are there to lean on one another. Like it will probably bring me to tears the day that I hear two participants from 15 Minutes of Fame like featured on each other's song. Like, I
That would
mean,
be
like that would
amazing.
be so awesome, right? Like, I just love that. Or like if we were to ever like, if this ever gets to the place of where, like we can convene and do like a mini quote unquote festival or convention, something, to bring some people together like in a central place and like have a show and then like maybe have like remote things. Because I've reviewed a
Yeah.
lot of people overseas as well too. Like there's really great bands from England and
Oh,
Wales and stuff like
oh
that. I would
yeah.
love it if like they got together and they were like, "Hey, do you want to do a show?" And just it grows to
Yeah.
something. Like I want people to just I want, I want this to be like the ultimate networking experience.
Yeah.
And just kind of what you said, like just I think it's most attractive when people are coming together and it's an inclusive thing, instead of,
Hmm.
you know, a year ago I tried it's funny, I don't want to claim credit for it, but Threads is really big on the send me your song and I'll make a playlist or whatever. I did that once back in like September, October of last year, and I don't remember ever seeing it before doing it. And then all of a sudden it was just
Was possibly
everywhere
your idea.
afterwards. So I was just like, oh, that's cool. And that whole idea, it's kind of fun, because you do get to meet people and, like
Yeah.
kind of talk with them and everything. But at the end of the day, they put their songs in there and they kind of go on their own separate ways,
Yeah.
like, and I would watch those playlists and hope, like more, I listened to the playlists I built. I listened to them every single day, and I was hoping, more people would kind of come in and like maybe two, three, four people, like it
Yeah.
just all kinds of people wanted to have their hat in the ring, but they, didn't want to participate. And then with the 15 minutes of fame challenge, like when they weren't selected, I don't know how interested they were in actually, participating after that. But
Yeah.
so, and that's not necessarily their fault, like to some degree, people are kind of, if everybody's out there really striving to, find something that works for them and they are trying things and it's not, then I mean,
Hmm.
I'm not going to fault somebody for being like, yeah, I mean, this isn't helping me grow my career, like when in reality, if you build a community of people who are sharing the
Yeah.
spotlight, like it would help you. And
Yeah.
so instead of like kind of going to war with the people who are, like in and out, like find ways to draw them in and keep them in. I mean, that's really honestly the legacy of business, is like keeping
Yeah.
people coming in. And here the business isn't a monetary exchange, it's support. That's
Right.
that's that's the currency that we are
Yeah.
trying to offer here, is like to build each other up.
Yeah. Well, and I think,
Finding a way to do that is
yeah.
key.
Well, and I think that's, that's super important because there's I've participated in groups and stuff, and everybody always starts with really good intentions, but then at the end of the day, like you're always gonna have people that are just like, listen to me, and like they just want it to be like a one-way street, right? Instead of it being like a, like a mutual thing. And
Hmm.
so I think like that is an important thing, like when you're trying to build community, is like it's like, yes, like, like this can be really good, for one person, but maybe it's not good for everybody else. And I don't know, just I feel like, like the mutual support is super important. Like, so like one of the things I really like a lot about Threads and about other social media platforms is just the fact that like people actually do want to support each other. Like at the end of the
Yeah,
day, people are trying to grow themselves, and they're trying to be, do their own thing, but people really want to support each other.
lift